Hello folks, it's Anita Rao, and I wanted to speak about synastry in two charts. This is of course typically the charts of people who are romantically linked, but you can also see these connections with friends and family. Yeah? So let's get into this. Now, matching charts for compatibility is, of course, a common task for a typical astrologer. There are several rules prescribed for matching charts for a successful marriage or relationship. In Jyotish, we can quickly surmise a few things when it comes to compatibility by looking at the Ashtakuta points system, where the maximum points allotted is 36 for a couple. But there's much more to compatibility matching than a simple points system. If the astrologer is good, they will also give you an overview of the two charts seen together and delve into the synastry that way. In this way, they can give you a snapshot of their life together by analyzing all of the planetary connections in both charts. Of course, everyone brings their own karma into relationships, and karma is best seen by Rahu and Ketu's position in a chart. I always consider Rahu and Ketu to be a very valuable indicator in a chart generally, and certainly for compatibility. They tell you where the subconscious is directed, pulled by the desire to experience, which is the energy of Rahu, and pushed by the disinterest to experience, which tends to be the energy of Ketu. Karmic relationships are those which are carried on from past lives and are focused on completing unfinished karma. So arguably all relationships are karmically driven in one way or another. So in this way, you can be sure that the stronger the attraction, the deeper the karmic link between two people, as there is often a correlation with attraction and karma. In fact, if you're looking for a lifetime connection, then there's a high chance that the luminaries of one person will connect to the nodes of the other person. So for instance, Rahu Sun, Ketu Sun, Rahu Moon, and Ketu Moon is very commonly seen in people who have a long-term relationship. And if there's at least one Saturn connection to the Sun, the Moon, or the Ascendant, then you can be sure that this will be a long-lasting, binding karmic link. So today I'm going to focus on Ketu synastry and speak about how Ketu placement in one chart impacts the planets of the other person. I'm also going to link below the Rahu synastry video for you to compare the two. I did that a few months ago. Now, normally you will hear the stereotype that relationships defined by Rahu are forward-orientated and focused on growth potential, whereas those defined by Ketu look backward and therefore with time will dissolve. But in my experience, Ketu connections are more potent simply due to the fact that there is a familiar and often a deja vu type of feeling and therefore connection between two people. Both people would feel an instant attraction. And in some cases, the attraction can feel stale and complacent after a while, but it depends on what type of relationship you're seeking and, more importantly, in what phase of life you enter this relationship. There are also a couple of other factors to consider with Ketu connections in a chart. Do the two people themselves have a strong Ketu signature in their own charts? So Ketu could be connecting with the Sun or the Moon or the Lagna in their own chart, thereby making Ketu connections more familiar, potent, and lasting, simply because there is an intuitive understanding between the two people, as they're so familiar with that energy themselves. And then the other thing to consider is see what dasha you're going through. So for example, if you're going through a Venus dasha, you may be more attracted to someone that has more Rahu connections with you rather than Ketu. Yes. But if you're in perhaps a Jupiter dasha, then perhaps the Ketu connection can feel more compelling to you. It really depends on how the planets are placed in your own chart. And finally, why have you come together and when have you come together? Because Ketu has the energy of disinterest and apathy with material life and tends to be more drawn towards the spiritual, esoteric aspects of life. So if your life path is moving in that direction anyway, then of course it's a good connect, because it can be very supportive as a result. And perhaps better than a Rahu connection, which is more material centric and focuses on creating foundations such as wealth and family structures in life. But if you've already experienced the material growth and that's no longer your focus, then Ketu connections may fare better. So it depends on your current life path also. Ketu has a tendency to diminish the things that it touches in the material life and give gains on the spiritual front, because in this way it compels a person to go inward for the answers. But most of us are not only unaware of the spiritual, but we prefer not to walk down this very difficult path. So Ketu's gifts are neither registered nor welcome by most people in any phase of life. So also keep the social and cultural background in mind of the people that we're considering, right? You have to see in what context a relationship takes place. What is the view, for example, of marriage in that particular society? And relationships can also be kept together merely for children. So this is another cultural and social influence. But with societies becoming less reliant on traditional life paths, astrology can actually provide us with a deep insight and an important perspective on this subject. Remember, with the nodes, the focus is on the subconscious, usually the mental and the psychological patterns of people. And hence, once again, you have to see Saturn's role in synastry, among so many other things, to see if the relationship will actually last. Let's start with Ketu and Venus. Venus is considered the planet of love, relationship, desire, also wealth, right? However, he's also a Daitya guru. Daitya meaning demon, guru of the demons. He is Shukracharya, with all the knowledge that comes with it. And Rahu and Ketu is what? Basically Daitya, regarded as a demon. So Shukracharya is in essence Rahu and Ketu's guru. So there will always be an undercurrent of teaching and learning in this relationship. Here, both people can achieve significant progress for their spiritual development if that's their intention. This connection will start with mutual attraction and a familiar feeling. Unlike Rahu-Venus, it's not an overwhelming attraction, rather it's subtle and softer. It's sort of a longing that you feel for the person when you have a Ketu-Venus connection. Remember, Ketu tends to absorb the energy of the planet it associates with. Unlike Rahu, which tends to heighten, amplify, or energize the planet that it connects with, because it's providing the desire to experience, right? Ketu is more sort of disconnected, headless, but can experience very deeply on the very, the subconscious layers. So if Venus is in a particular chart operating on higher levels, then this can work very well. But if Venus is on the materialistic level, which it normally is, it can cause frustration for both people. Most people, especially given the era that we live in, will be operating on the materialistic level. So again, it depends on which phase of life this relationship begins. If it is in the latter part of life, then this can feel very comforting and you will want to remain together. Ketu and Sun. Ketu and Sun, similar to Rahu and Sun, is a deeply felt soul connection. Initially, though, it can lead to some ego clashes, because Sun is, of course, the agent of the individual soul, right? It's the Jara Atmakaraka. It's also survival, because without it, there is no life. Whereas Ketu causes the light of the sun to be obscured by its shadow. right? Because it's a shadow planet. I've seen this connection working well if the sun is a female and the man is Ketu. Because by dimming the light, as we say, it could diminish the woman's authoritative stance, because the sun also personifies power and authority. There's an instant familiarity and comfort with this connection, especially for the sun person who's going to be mesmerized by the Ketu person. And as I said, with the nodes, whenever they connect with the luminaries, it's very, very intense connection and could certainly last a lifetime. The upper hand in the relationship is usually with the Ketu person here. Yeah, Ketu and moon. This is also very compelling synastry. The emotional connection is very deep for both people and creates a close bond that can certainly last a lifetime. Both would feel a sense of emotional security with each other. You would also have similar emotional reactions and perceptions to things. So that's very helpful because intuitively you're connecting there. It also creates a wonderful possibility for spiritual growth. This one's a bond that will be difficult to break and have a lasting effect, especially for the moon person. One thing to note is that one person tends to be always giving here and the other person's always sort of taking. But then this is quite typical of nodal connections generally, as they create imbalances in relationships. And with the Ketu connection, it's more obvious than with the Rahu connection. Because Ketu is usually connecting on a very, very, more deeper level. But in moon Ketu, it can really play out. On the other hand, that will be one of the things that can certainly keep the couple together. So again, it depends on other factors, what else is going in the chart. Dependency on the other person is strong. So if growth is your main agenda in relationships generally, or that's the phase of life that you're in, then this can feel a little bit draining to you. Ketu with Mars. This combination can work as it can reduce the arguments between two people. The intensity of the attraction will be the reason they have come together. Physical chemistry can be powerful here and very hard to forget. But this one may fizzle out as quickly as it started unless you have other factors sustaining it. Yeah. It can also be good for professional relationships. Ketu and Mercury. This connect creates a nice friendly rapport between two people. You can easily talk to the other person, and you can also talk to them about various subjects, because we're talking about Mercury here. Similar to Ketu and Moon, there can be an intuitive connection where you can just read the person's thoughts and have a quiet understanding about them. On the positive side, this can initially start with good communication and common interest activities. The intellectual link between the two is also very comfortable and familiar, and the two of you can feel incredibly happy talking to one another. But it can descend into a feeling of been there, done that very quickly as well. Anything with Mercury happens very quickly. It can, however, grant some teachings and learnings on the esoteric levels. So, Ketu and Jupiter. This is a good connection. It's a natural connection. The Ketu person can contribute to the spiritual development, and the Jupiter person can bring an understanding of the process to the relationship. Usually it's the Jupiter person who is very generous towards the Ketu person and will boost their self-confidence. Both people will love to talk about ideas and philosophy. Both people can also inspire each other. This is a good, spiritually positive connect, which can last a lifetime. And the bond itself can be very comfortable, nurturing, and certainly go very deep. I think this is one of the better Ketu connections that you can have with someone. Ketu and Saturn. This is a very serious connection, and it can feel like heavy-duty karmic bindings from the past. This connection can also bring a fear of getting involved with this person to begin with. So when you first meet them, you might hesitate. And this is perhaps why it can bring separations between the partners as well. So for instance, you could meet them maybe there was an initial connect, but then there's some block in the way. And there tend to be quite a lot of blocks in the way. Then followed by a separation. And then they reconnect. And then the reconnection is stronger and stronger each time. Yeah. And this can very well happen until Ketu or Saturn matures. It depends on what's happening in the chart. So, late 30s or late 40s. This connection can get better with time though, because by then the fear would have diminished. In the initial phases it can be unbearable, but if the two stick it out, their experience will get better with time. It's also good for professional connections. Ketu and Ketu. Here both persons are very similar in what they have learned in the past. They may have gone through some similar sort of experiences and internalized the same learnings as from previous lives. Both may have a subconscious understanding of each other's deepest motivations. This is a good combination of companionship and friendship. And of course it's natural, right? Because you'll have this connection only with people that are close to your age. Or if there is a very big age gap, like 18 years or so. Ketu and Rahu. This is good for companionship, and it's usually a lifetime connect. It can grow deeper with time. This can give each an understanding of the other, which can neither be articulated or understood completely, just experienced. There's genuine sympathy here, affection, and they appreciate each other's life paths. The simple reason is that Ketu person knows at the deepest level where the Rahu person is going and may go through in the future, and then vice versa. So that's a brief overview of the connections and how they can play out. Now, I want to add a couple of points to this. The conventional view is that Ketu's appearances are liberating on the spiritual levels, but appear to be a loss on the material levels. And that Ketu is where you have been in too many lifetimes, so you have transcended that experience. But remember, Rahu and Ketu are really essentially the same entity. So, the real key is, and the way to look at this, is that the challenge is about balance. Because wherever the nodal axis is in your chart, you will feel a deep imbalance in that place. So essentially, and ideally, you're looking at the connection with another person so that they can bring that place, that space into a balance, right? And that's essentially what a relationship is anyway, right? It's the 1-7, it's the balancing, right? It's like, as you say, the saying, you complete me. It's a completion. So essentially, when the nodal axis is connecting with another person's chart, you're looking for that place to heal, for that place to get balanced with the help of the other person. Yeah. And again, if we're talking about the luminaries, like Ketu Sun connecting, Rahu Sun, Rahu Moon, Ketu Moon, then, and you know, of course the luminaries are the essence of the person, the nature, their personality, their character traits. So if that is connecting with the other person's node and in the nodal axis, well, then there's an opportunity to bring that chart to balance, and vice versa, right? Separations do come with Ketu synastry, but they will also come with Rahu synastry, all right? So don't think that it's just only with Ketu that happens. Rather with the Rahu connections, first comes a very, very intense attraction, then the dissatisfaction with the experience that you had. and then the separation. And then, again, the reconnect may come many times over. Yeah. So that's how that works. Whereas with Ketu, it may be the distrust or the separation that comes very quickly in the initial stages. But then if you become aware of the nodal axis, then these connections can lead to a deeper bond and you can reconnect in the future, right? So in the same way, when you learn to balance the Rahu Ketu energies in your own chart, you realize that you cannot do one without the other. They are the same. You may tip the scale with Rahu, especially during Rahu periods, or if you're going through a Rahu Dasha. But then paying attention to the Ketu position in your chart will bring the balance back into your life, and vice versa. Yeah. Now, the finer details, of course, will depend a great deal on the house in which this combination is happening in both people's charts. Remember, these are, psychological patterns that we're analyzing because we're talking about shadow planets, not physical planets. So it's very important to see also where the physical planets are impacting each other's chart. To add some foundation and grounding to the relationship, it becomes important to have Saturn connections in the chart as well. So if you have someone in your life with such a Ketu synastry, analyze the relationship in greater detail. It will help you understand your own self better. So that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. Take care. Cheers.